Hello and welcome to Business Tech Insights. I'm your host, Brad Nelson, and today I'm joined by Anthony, otherwise known as Mr. The Plague. He is a software engineer and cybersecurity professional. Anthony, can you give us a little introduction?
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. As you said, I am Anthony Russell, also known as Mr. The Plague or .NET Russell, whichever whichever anybody prefers. I've been going by those handles for a while, but yeah, I spent a bunch of years doing software development, .NET software development specifically. I started in 2013, 2012, after I got out of the Army, and did engineering for a bunch of years, fell in love with security. Uh, 2014, 2015, somewhere around there, I started going to DEF CON and DerbyCon and all that stuff. And um, yeah, just been in love with security ever since. And most recently, I've been doing pen testing for a very large company. And I spend most of my days just pen testing and looking at HackerOne reports and trying to reproduce stuff. And yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So you've been going to DEF CON for a while. Did you go to DEF CON 26?
I don't know. My wife and I, we go like every couple years. I know I did 22 and 23. I think I did 25, 30, 32, and 33. I think those are the ones I did. I can't
Okay.
remember. I've got all the badges up on the wall.
I, I've only ever been once, and it was to 26. I was wondering if maybe I just missed you or
Oh, nice.
something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look. It's a good time though. It's always fun.
Definitely, definitely. Well, our audience is mostly business owners and business leaders. With your experience doing the penetration testing and stuff, and kind of having the point of view of an attacker, what's the most common thing that you're seeing that businesses are lacking as far as security?
Oh, where to start? I mean, it's still a lot of common stuff, like I think the things that we see most come in are like web cache poisoning, cross-site scripting, misconfigured files, misconfigured servers. Like, it's not super critical that your, package.json file is public. Like nobody's going to own your server off of that, but um, it gives a lot of information about your server, about all the dependencies that are installed for the web application that's running. Um, so yeah, a lot of misconfigurations I think the number one, especially since I'm coming from the software perspective, um, I see the way these mistakes happen. A lot of times it'll just be like an engineering team didn't do threat modeling prior to designing the application and building it, but they cram in the pen test right at the end.
Hmm.
So they don't consult anybody on the security team, uh, and it's kind of an afterthought. So you might see teams build endpoints and then bolt on security afterward, like bolt on authentication afterward, and then that often leads to like, oh well, this endpoint over here should be secure, but because they forgot to bolt on, the attributes to have it authenticated in whatever language they're doing it in, now it's unauthenticated and you can get an IDOR through it or something. So lots of stuff like that.
Do you think that that's just because security is an afterthought, or because they're trying to meet certain compliance standards, so they do the pen test because that's part of the compliance? Or why don't they? Why aren't they more proactive about putting that in their configurations or software?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think that it's a mix. I think so. Specifically where I'm at, we have a lot of people that are pushing to prod. I mean, they're under tight deadlines, and I was fortunate when I was writing code that really only one of the companies that I worked at was it always up against the wall. Like every release, we were on a tight timeline. Most of the companies I worked for, it wasn't that bad. Like we would have time if we brought up, hey, we had this security issue, we're going to run over a month or whatever. I mean, yeah, nobody wants to hear that, but at the same time, the leadership would be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Let's fix it. Let's move on. Um, but yeah, a lot of teams that I see are up against the wall as far as like timelines go, and then they cram in security at the end, and they're like, yeah, let's do this pen test, and then we're gonna release like 2-3 days after you give us your report. And I'm like, I don't know if that's gonna work out. Because I'm like, I'm not claiming to be Mr. Robot over here, but like most of my tests will turn something up, something that will require uh remediation before you release it. And I don't know if you want to give yourself like 2-3 days before prod release, but yeah.
Yeah. It, um, man, I feel like I'm kind of jumping around in my head, but back to
That's all right.
your Mr. the Plague alias. Is that
Yeah.
from Hackers?
Yeah, I think it took me a long time. I went by .NET Russell for the longest time because I wanted to be, a professional.
Yeah.
But
Well,
the
because
more
you're
I
a .NET programmer, so
right,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
the more I grew and the more seniority I got, the more experience along the line. Like I don't know. I just want to laugh at how serious it is, like sometimes we just gotta smile and laugh at ourselves. And I remember what Penn Jillette is in Hackers, the movie. He's he works in the he works as one of like the admins, the sysadmin or something, maintaining the Gibson.
yeah,
And um I remember he calls Eugene Belfort, Mr. the Plague, on the phone, and he calls him Eugene or something. And he said, "Oh, I told you it's the plague." And Penn responds with, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. the Plague." And I crack up every time I see that. So I was like, "Oh, that's a good line. It's in the right vein, and it pokes fun at us enough. So I'll keep it."
yeah, yeah, definitely. So, are you planning on creating a giant worm that's gonna uh,
Who
capsize
says I
some
haven't?
tankers?
Yeah.
Oh,
I've already
okay.
got the Da Vinci virus. It's out there, man. It's
Yeah.
like it's capsizing some tankers right now as we speak and stealing fractions of a penny from every transaction.
So, okay, since you are a professional hacker, quote unquote, what do you see? What is real life penetration testing and real life hacking compared to what you see in the movies?
um Research, a good example. I think that speaking of Mr. Robot, that show was pretty good as far as uh accuracy as far as like what they were doing, but I think the thing they missed was, you don't you don't just like pull up to a police station and in 5 minutes hack it through your phone or whatever. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
these things take time. They take lots of experience in different domains. You need to understand how Windows works or Linux works if you want to hack Windows or Linux. If you want to do DLL injection, you got to know what a DLL is. If you want to write exploits, you got to know how to program. And there's a lot of work up front. There's a lot of guessing, a lot of trial and error. So it's just a lot of research. It's a lot of time it takes, and it's patience and perseverance. A lot of people will get frustrated after the first 4 or 5 hours of getting nothing, or longer, maybe. I mean, I've gone days, weeks without. There's been machines that I've looked at, like ones that are intentionally vulnerable, like hack the box machines.
Yeah.
And, I could look at them for a week and not get anything. And, there's nothing more frustrating than somebody literally giving you a machine that they're saying there are vulnerabilities in this. You can get root, you can get administrator access on this. And, you can't even get a foothold.
Yeah.
Super frustrating.
Yeah. I did many years ago, I interviewed to be a penetration tester for a company that I won't name here, but the penetration testing firm. And it was like that. I had practiced all sorts of, network penetration testing and, creating exploit code and using other people's exploit code, kind of script kiddie stuff. And then something I didn't practice at all was like web app pen testing. And they're like, okay, for part of this interview, we're going to give you this vulnerable web app, and you got to find all the vulnerabilities. And And
That's
so I
cool.
was like, oh crap, I know nothing about this. Thankfully, they gave me like a week. And so I bought a book. I don't remember what book it is now. And I like literally read the book and been like, okay, let's see if this works, down. I ended up failing the interview by like half a point or something. It was really
Oh,
frustrating.
geez.
But yeah. But anyway, I know what you mean, how it can be really frustrating when somebody hands you something or there's something there, but you just can't find it.
On the flip side of that too, when you're going up against production code, like actual live applications, um, I mean, I find myself doing this all the time. I'll look at something and I'll go, "Oh, that's not vulnerable." That's there's nothing that I'm going to be able to do there. And I talk myself out of it before I even try anything. And then I'll say, "Okay, well, maybe I should just go try it at least, we'll go give it a shot." And then the next thing you know, you got like SQL injection or something. So, yeah, there's two sides to that coin. Either you can look at stuff a long time and not find anything and be frustrated and heartbroken, or you could talk yourself out of it. You could be like, "Oh, there's nothing here," or "Too many people have looked at this bug bounty program, so I'm not going to find anything." But I look at a lot of reports that come in, and I'm telling you, even in production, large production company code, there's there's a lot of stupid shit that gets pushed in.
Yeah. Now, so you mentioned earlier that having all those the prerequisite knowledge, like programming or Linux and Windows and all that kind of stuff, helps you do your job. So, how does your experience with programming translate to what you're doing now?
Yes. So that's like the most useful tool I have is my programming ability because, for example, let's say I need to use an exploit that somebody wrote. I get it off exploit DB. A lot of times those exploits are defanged. And by defanged, I mean the person that wrote the exploit doesn't want somebody to come along and just run it. So
Right.
they'll go down 20 or 30 lines and they'll take out a semicolon, or they'll intentionally, say, "Oh, it's for Python 3," but then do something that's only available in Python 2. And then you have to go in and like convert the code or whatever. So that's one example. And it's super useful for that alone. But yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, like every single day, I'll want a bash script or something that will do something automated for me, and I can just write it instead of banging my head against the wall. Or, I mean, hell, I can even vibe code it. I don't need to vibe code it, but it's nice that I can articulate exactly to AI what I want, and it'll just dump it out. And if there's a small bug in it or whatever, I can fix it, or it can get me close, and then I can take it the rest of the way because I know what to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, programming's super helpful.
Yeah. I do the same thing. It like you put into Chat GPT or whatever. I want a script that'll do X, Y, Z, and I don't think I've ever gotten one that just works right away. But it's the same kind of thing. Is it gets you most of the way there, and you just tweak a few little things, and then you're good to go, and it saves you, who knows, hours.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, how often are you seeing vibe coding out in the wild, and how do you find more? If you're finding it, that is, are you finding more security vulnerabilities in vibe coded code rather than something that was designed from the ground up by a human being?
I can tell you for a fact that vibe coding is very popular. I mean, I'm adamantly against vibe coding. I don't like it. I think that um, it does professionally vibe coding. Like if you're just doing
Sure.
like hackery scripts or whatever, that's one thing. But if you're trying to build an authentication login for, or an SSO or something for a website that's a production website that has real customers and real money and stuff, you probably should know what you're doing. And if you're going to vibe code it, it should be like what I said, where you understand, you can read the code, you can immediately look at it and be like, "Oh yeah, this is clearly a mistake." Or this library, this dependency that the AI is recommending, have the ability to look it up and see if there's any CVEs and stuff if your company doesn't track the dependencies that you're putting in. Those are important things. As far as what me personally, I'm seeing, I have no idea if our engineers are vibe coding the code I'm reviewing or not.
Mm.
And I don't ask them. I could, but I mean, half the time they're going to tell you no, they wrote it, or like it's just not a useful exercise for me. I'd rather
Yeah.
just go do the test and break it, or I can look over the code. I usually get the repo link, and I'll go dig through the last like couple weeks worth of commits before the pen test and see what everybody was cramming in at the last second. I'll dig through the code comments, the commit comments, and see what everybody was pushing in and how frequently, and if they were like rolling stuff back out quickly, because maybe they noticed a bug or something like that. Those are the things I rely on.
Yeah. So, what do you think of AI in general? Just just in general, how it's going. Is it a positive for humanity or is it a negative?
We're cooked. I mean, in all honesty, I use it enough. I set an AI up server. I set an AI server up at my house. I'm starting to automate things around my house with it. I'm doing projects with it in my free time, like building against it. I don't know if you use LM Studio at all,
Mm-mm.
or if you've used Open Web UI or anything like that. But essentially, Open Web UI is the nice ChatGPT front end of what I have built at home. And
Okay.
LM Studio is the back end that has all the models and like the API interfaces and stuff. So you can download free models and run them at home on your own hardware with no, you're not giving your data to anybody. You're running it all locally. So we do that. My wife and I, we have a couple AI models that we use. And I have one for pen testing that I use that will um, generate scripts and stuff for me if I need it, or if I have a question about pen testing, like maybe there's some header I haven't seen before or some library I haven't seen before that pops up in an error log. I can just drop it in there and be like, hey, what is this?
Hmm.
Super nice for that stuff. For humanity, I think it
Yeah.
will be a net positive, but it's going to be some growing pains. We've got, I see the argument for the people that are like, AI is never going to replace us. AI is the worst. It's a fad. It's a bubble. I see that argument. I also see the argument of AI is going to take all of our jobs and we're all going to die. Like I see both ends of it, but I think the reality is somewhere in the middle, um, where it's definitely going to replace people. It's definitely happening faster than a lot of people anticipate. Um, but I don't think it's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
I think a
yeah,
lot of people aren't realizing that it's already replacing people. Like
it
I
is.
use Chat GPT to do a lot of just simple stuff that a VA would normally do, but I don't hire a VA because I have a chat bot that does it. But
Absolutely.
I wonder, so the whole AI, it's a bubble, and and then also it's the end of the world. I think it could also be both. I mean,
It
you
could be
think,
both. Yeah, it
yeah,
absolutely could be both.
you think back in the 90s, everybody was like, oh, the internet, it's a big bubble. And you had the big dot com bubble, everything crashed. But now, I mean, like the internet is everything runs on the internet. Your freaking toaster
Yes.
runs on the internet. So it's,
That's what everybody forgets about bubbles is that a bubble doesn't mean, even when it pops, it doesn't mean that it's the end. It just means that you're cleaning out the nonsense. Like
yeah,
uh Amazon was part of the .com bubble and now Amazon rules the world.
yeah,
So
yeah, exactly.
it's same thing with Google. They were around. I'm pretty sure Google was around for the bubble. Microsoft was around for the bubble. They're still here.
Yeah.
Apple was. There's a lot of companies that got washed out, but they were probably going to get washed out even if there wasn't a bubble. They were just, not, there was not a lot of value there.
Hmm.
But, and I think the same applies to AI. There's a lot of value in AI. I think people underestimate the value that it brings to the table. Yeah, there's a lot of hallucinations, but that gets better every day. It
Hmm.
gets faster every day. The models are getting better. And I mean, some of them are like indistinguishable from having a conversation with another person. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, they
how fast we've come, you know?
yeah, they basically passed the Turing test.
Yeah. I
Yeah, it
remember I had a 2012 car with a GPS in it, and the cool thing about it was that you could like speak to it. You could say, "Hey, take me here," and
uh-huh.
it would recognize your voice and take you there. Except that it never worked. Like the voice recognition was horrible. You know, we're talking 2012. You know, it's
Yeah,
only
yeah.
what 13 years ago. It's not that long, and it was total dog shit. And now we've got AI that'll pretend to be your girlfriend. You know, it's like full on conversations,
Yeah,
all
yeah.
types of stuff.
Now, I think that's where it gets dangerous, though. If you start relying on a chatbot for your emotional satisfaction, like it's a machine and it doesn't have the same wants and the same needs as a human. And
Sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know that I just feel like that's kind of dangerous. Or some people talking about like using AI chatbots for therapy. Um, I talked to a guy, Rod Price, on another episode where he has an AI chat bot that he's designed that you can get on a telephone app that connects veterans and first responders with therapists and like helps them journal and helps them think through things.
That's cool.
It's very cool. You should check it out.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's pretty cool.
but he was very adamant that he's like, these chatbots are not therapists themselves. Like
Yeah.
if you
Not
start
yet,
saying
at
like,
least.
well, yeah, not yet. But you know, he was very much like, you know, if you start chatting to this and you're like, "Hey, today really sucks. I'm thinking about eating a bullet." Like it will say, you know, well, you should contact this emergency number. You probably need to talk to a therapist. Here's some that are in your area, that kind of stuff. Um, but some people I think are using chatbots kind of as their therapist or their emotional support, and I don't know that that's safe or healthy.
Yeah, it raises a good question of the question would be, why is it safe or not safe? Why is it healthy or not healthy? I mean, at this, I could totally agree that today we should not be using these for like therapy. They're not ready yet, I don't think. I mean, there should be some standard or regulation that we put on them that says, okay, this model has passed all the basics. Its hallucination is at 1/10 of 1% or something like that. You know, there should be a bar that we set for ones that people seek for therapy. But at this, I understand why people are going to them for therapy, because maybe they don't want to go to the VA. Maybe they don't want to talk to somebody. And maybe speaking to a robot is the safest way for them to talk about their issues. And it could stop them from eating a bullet, which is interesting. Especially with the veteran suicide rate is
Mm-hmm.
wildly high. Uh, but yeah, I'm concerned that people are using it for things it shouldn't be used for yet. It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting though to see that that's how people are using it, because that's what it'll be used for. 10, maybe it could be as soon as 10 less years, 5, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just look at the rate of advancement with these, especially now they're talking about putting data centers in space,
Yeah.
where you're going to have unlimited energy and cooling and all types of stuff. So
Yeah.
very
It's
interesting.
actually sounds really cool.
Yeah.
uh, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Uh, anyway, yeah, data centers in
What'd you do in the
space.
service? You were in the service, right?
No, I was not.
Oh,
No,
I
I
thought
was
you were
not.
in the service. Yeah, that's
No,
right.
no, I've never been in the service. I have many friends who have been in the service. But yeah, and okay, from somebody who hasn't been in the service to somebody who has. Also, thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah, no worries.
like it's sometimes can be kind of hard to properly empathize with somebody who's been in the service because especially like a combat veteran who has seen some absolutely brutal stuff and done some absolutely brutal stuff. Um, how would you suggest that a normal civilian like me um, empathize with somebody like that?
That's hard. I don't even do it. I just avoid it usually entirely.
Yeah.
So I got out of the army in 2010. I got off active duty in 2010, and for at least 5 or 6 years there, I just pretended I never served, just because it was
Mm.
so difficult to broach those conversations with people. I just didn't want to. didn't want to have that conversation. I mean, very, very small percentage of the population actually serves. So most people
Yeah.
you run into don't know. And I, like, for example, I had a service dog. I still have him, actually. He's laying behind me. Um, he, when I say service dog, I mean, like, he's my VA trained psychiatric service dog. We went through school for about a year together. Um, he was trained, him and I trained together. He's my dog.
Mm.
So when I would take him places, he would wear his service dog vest. And I would say at least half, at least 50 to 70% of the places that I took him, we would catch grief. Um, somebody would say, hey, you can't bring a pet in here. I'd say, he's wearing a service dog vest, like he's clearly a
Mm-hmm.
service dog.
Mm-hmm.
People would say, oh, you're clearly not disabled, because I'm an athletic guy. I'm athletic, so clearly I can't be disabled.
Sure.
It got to the point where I want to say after like 2 years of using him as a service dog, I just stopped using him as a service dog. I stopped because it was just too much hassle. Every place I went, somebody had something to say.
Mm.
I mean, I just want to go out and enjoy stuff. So for a long time there, I just pretended that I never served. It took me a long time to become proud of that again.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice to anybody would be, just don't.
Okay.
Just don't.
Okay.
Just don't. I mean, that's from my perspective,
Sure.
especially with these days, because, like, even talking with other veterans these days, it's difficult. Not so when I served, everybody deployed. When I served, everybody was overseas in Iraq or Afghanistan or something. Like, there
Yeah.
was very, very few people that didn't deploy. So you could have conversations with people about deployment, and they would understand right away, about different things. Whereas now, um, it's just a different breed of veteran. Like, it's just different.
Mm.
There's people that are so far removed from combat deployments that they just have no idea. Um, and on top of that, like, regulations have changed. Everything has changed. So it's just totally different. I don't know. I'm sure this is something every veteran has gone through. But yeah, I just don't bring it up with people.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Well, what do you think about like the new technology that's going into the military? A lot of this AI stuff, drones with AI on them to help identify targets and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that's a good idea or not a good idea? Or
Yeah, I mean, anything that saves the lives of the team you're on is probably a good idea.
Mhm.
Or anything that shortens a war would be nice. Nobody wants long extended wars of attrition. But I I think that the Ukraine war specifically really highlighted how well a fighting force could take off the shelf components and turn them into something deadly.
Mhm.
Uh, I a lot of people don't know. I used to fly FPV drones, like the ones they fly in Ukraine. I
Mhm.
flew them like 2015 to 2018, somewhere in there. And I had an idea for strapping explosives to them. And I was gonna build this FPV drone that I could sell as an idea, where you could, like, strap it to infantry soldiers and have, like, if your squad is out on patrol and you get pinned down, you could just have one of your guys, throw an FPV drone up in the air and either do recon for you
Mhm.
or drop a grenade in a window. And I decided against doing that because I didn't want to, I didn't want to show people how to take like $150 drone and weaponize it. But in hindsight, maybe I should have now, because the Ukraine war happened not long later, and it's literally exactly what they did. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's good that we're becoming aware of these, that technology is changing. Our military is adapting to it. I did see recently that the U.S. government's investing, like, in these extremely expensive drones for warfighters. Uh,
Mm.
I think that they'd be better off taking an example from Ukraine and just teaching them how to put together small ones and use those. But I don't know, man. I've been so far removed from the military. It's, who knows?
Yeah, with all the Ukraine uh drone stuff, me and my buddy, we had this whole plan on we were going to do this research on anti-drone and drone defense stuff. And so we had this idea to take like a 12 gauge shotgun and affix a Yagi
That'll work.
antenna on the top. So we're gonna put a Yagi antenna on top with a jammer. So you jam the drone so it stops, and then you can shoot it out of the air because a lot of those are moving real fast.
Yeah.
But then we were trying to do our paperwork so we could actually do it legally and actually release a white paper and stuff. And the FCC denied our exemption
Shocking.
to create a jammer. And then after several conversations with the FFA, or FAA, yeah,
FAA.
yeah, found out that it is 100% illegal to shoot your own drone out of the air with anything, which is the most, I don't understand. I was like, but it's our drone. We own it, and we're going to be on a private range, and it's only going to be, 8 feet off the ground or whatever. And they said, our jurisdiction starts where the ground ends. So if it's airborne, it's an aircraft, and it's illegal federally to damage an aircraft in flight. And
yeah.
So
I remember when a lot of these conversations were coming up in the FPV field. I mean, you could literally just buy a flight controller and 3D print a chassis and, slap it together and fly it around.
mm-hmm.
Now it's a lot more complicated with the new laws and things that have come out. I remember when they started requiring everybody to like go on the FAA website and print out this silly license that says like I'm certified to fly my own drone. Yeah, they had some weird laws around that stuff, but what I find interesting is I like thinking about those things too. I was thinking about building a so how some of these security systems that people have at home, you have like little sensors for every window and every door, and it's like
Mm-hmm.
magnetic, and you open the door and shoots a little frequency off, and set your alarm off or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, I started hearing about jamming technology for that, so that criminals or police or whoever could come up to your house and jam the signals of your devices and effectively, be able to neutralize your alarm system. And I was trying to think of a way to circumvent that. And I think I had a cool idea where you would have the exact opposite. You would have a sensor that would listen for this signal, and the signal of your devices, and if it stops hearing the signals of the beacons of your devices, it just like sets off your alarm.
Uh-huh.
Or if you hear somebody jamming it, it sets your alarm off. There's all types of fun projects like that you can do in your free time. It's just the question of, is it ethically or morally a good idea to release it? I struggle with that more with my ideas than anything.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about that? What do you think about disclosing things that you found out in the wild, or ideas like that could potentially be dangerous information? Do you think that people have a right to have dangerous information?
Yes, because I don't want anybody telling me not to have dangerous information. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to fall in one of the camps. Like, is it a good idea to let people have a gun, or is it a good idea to tell people not to shoot people and punish them if they do? I mean, you're going to end up in one of the camps essentially,
Mm-hmm.
no matter who you are. And I tend to lean more along the lines of people are responsible for their own actions. So if I release, you know, if I release a design that could, if I release malware on my GitHub or something, and I say, hey, look, you can do this thing. I mean, I didn't tell you to go use it against AT&T or the government or Russia. That's on that person to pull that trigger. But it
Right.
could be used to defend those companies and those countries as well by the blue team. So there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
good that can be had with it as well. So I think I tend to lean more in the camp of people are responsible for their own actions. If you got something, release it, unless there's a really good reason not to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and there's probably like a way to release it. Like if you found a vulnerability with AT&T's website, you might not say, "Oh, here's this vulnerability in
Right.
AT&T's website." You would say, I found this new kind of vulnerability, and here's some concept exploit code or something.
Yeah, some responsible disclosure.
Yeah.
And honestly, what you see is the people that are coming up with these exploits, they go hit all the bug bounty programs first, anyways, before they announce anything. They'll go hit everything up, and then collect as much money as they can, and then they release it in the wild and let everyone else pick up the scraps.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah, like that React to Shell thing that just came out recently. Didn't I think whoever released that they went around to all the bug bounty programs and collected up as much as they could first.
Yeah. Are you talking about the one with sudo?
The React to Shell exploit that came out it was like a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I missed that one. I know there was
Yeah,
one a month or two ago, something to do with uh sudo, something to do with there was a vulnerability in sudo.
nice.
I don't know. I don't know. So I know that you are a fan of cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
I want to ask you. I
yeah,
want
I
to ask
am.
you a couple things. First
Yeah,
off, do you think that the current Bitcoin cycle is over, or do you think that it's going to go up more? And then secondly, do you think that we're in for an alt season, or do you think that's also over?
yes. I think that the Bitcoin cycle, I think it topped. Um, I think it'll go back up again, but it won't set another all-time high this cycle. I mean, I've actually posted about this quite a bit. I think that the market ebbs and flows, and we hit a top, and it's never. I mean, if you've been a part of more than one Bitcoin cycle, you know it's always like 10 times less than what everybody's screaming it's going to go to.
Oh yeah, oh
Um,
yeah.
Now, granted, there are circumstances this cycle that could make it go wild, but I think it would have already happened. So the U.S. government fully backing Bitcoin, that was a really big deal. Um, and there's a lot of states that are passing pro Bitcoin legislation. Um, there's also a lot of good movement internationally for Bitcoin. What I think I'm excited for is Web3. Bitcoin it has a bright future
Hmm.
as a storage of wealth and as a means to transport large sums of money cross border, internationally, for almost nothing. Bitcoin has a very bright future in that. It's going to be used for that. Um, and of course, it'll be in index funds. It already is,
Hmm.
all these
Hmm.
things. It'll be a part of insurance funds, all types of things. But I think it'll be more of like a digital gold in the long run. The exciting stuff to me is Web3. Ethereum, Solana, Polygon, systems like that, networks like that are exciting to me. I've built on those. I have smart contracts I've deployed. Um, the reason I find those things exciting is because those are more than just money. Those allow you to own things
Hmm.
in cyberspace. So a lot of people would say Web 1.0 is like just read, and then Web 2.0 is read and write, and then Web 3 is read, write, and own.
Hmm.
Uh, and a lot of people say, oh, well, I could just take a screenshot of your JPEG or whatever, and, now I own it. But JPEGs and NFTs are the most lowbrow implementation of Web3 technology and smart contracts there is.
Yeah.
I think anybody that spends a little time investigating Web3 and understanding that um, it's an immutable blockchain that is publicly verifiable and doesn't rely on any individual company. So I said I deployed something to the blockchain. Okay. I built a smart contract for a company I was running a couple years ago called Satoshi Metal, which is still live on the internet. You can still see Satoshi Metal. I do plan on going back and building more stuff. I stopped because I was focusing on my career as a pen tester. Um, But eventually I do want to start it back up, which is why it's still an active website. You
Hmm.
can go see the things that I've made on there. Uh, Essentially, Satoshi Metal is a jewelry company. I made jewelry. I made rings and necklaces and bracelets. And you're probably wondering, like, well, how the hell did you tie that into Web3? So anybody that is in the precious metals community knows that authenticity of precious metals is very difficult
Hmm.
for a lot of reasons. You can fake the weight and size, and even if you use the same material, you can counterfeit somebody's product. It may not be perfect, but you might get a premium because somebody thinks you're selling the real thing. A good example are there was this company that made these bars called Engelhard bars, and the company's out of business. They were in business for a very long time, and these silver bars are very sought after. It's just art, it's just art. So they made these bars. A lot of people like them, and they're sought after. They have serial numbers on them. The problem is that the company went out of business, and for a long while there, even still today, I'm sure people are counterfeiting these bars and not making them 100% silver, or they're coring them out and putting lead in the center or whatever. Like they're selling bars that aren't what they actually are.
Hmm.
So how do we solve this problem with precious metals is the question. So what I did was I decided to make a company that every single piece that I made, I would serialize it and put it on the blockchain. And if you ever want to verify a piece of jewelry that I made, you can take the certificate of authenticity I sent you, and you can take physical characteristics of the piece that I sold you. And you combine these two things together, and you can check it against the smart contract and verify that you have a real authentic piece. And if any of that is off, even a little bit, it won't work. It'll say it's not authentic. The only way to validate an authentic piece is to be holding it in your hand. Um, it was a combination of, I mean, it's not like I invented a cure for cancer. I mean, I just
Sure.
took some properties of the item that were unique, and I laser etch a serial number on the piece as well. And you take those properties and the serial number and you enter it into the site. It gets turned into a hash that anybody can replicate. So if my business ever goes under or whatever, the smart contract still exists. The
Hmm.
function still exists on the web. I could die. My site can go under. Everything can go offline. People could still verify that the piece that I sold them is authentic.
Hmm.
Um, it's implementations like that I see value in for Web3. Mine was a very simple implementation, but um, a lot of countries don't have great property records, like for who owns a piece of property.
Hmm.
In the U.S.,
Hmm.
we're blessed that we have a good property tracking system, but a lot of countries it's not the case. So this could be a system for that. Um, there's so many facets to Web3. I could talk about it all day. Being an artist who doesn't want to give 80% of your royalties to a record producer or to some company that owns it, you could publish your own stuff on your own website, and
Hmm.
people would know that it's authentically from you because they can get a Web3 certificate with it, and they it's signed by your private key. They know it's specifically from you. So
Hmm.
all types of
Hmm.
stuff.
Well, I've even thought about like concert tickets you could
Yep.
put with Web3, and I don't know why nobody's doing that yet, but
Make them
tick
tradable, all types of things.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then you can verify if it's an authentic ticket to this concert and who
Hmm.
bought it and who sold it to who and all that sort of stuff.
Which brings up a really great point, specifically with tickets to events. So if you buy a ticket, so let's say your event sells out in 10 seconds,
Hmm.
and now your only option is the secondary market. There's really not a lot of great options for that. You might get screwed, right? Like
Oh yeah.
you might get screwed. Like there's no other way to say it. You might go to a scalper and they sell you, total snake oil, and they run off with the money, and you were doing something you weren't supposed to do anyways. So like you're not gonna report it,
Yeah.
and you don't get to go to your concert,
Yeah.
But with Web3 and transferring concert tickets or movie tickets or whatever, play tickets, um, via Web3, you can immediately authenticate that it's the real thing and that, you're getting a value for your money.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah. So what Web3 projects are you supporting currently, if I can ask?
Uh, I don't have my eyes on any right at the moment. I've been so deep into offensive security this year that
Mm.
I haven't been tracking. My preferred Web3 environment right now is Solana. It was Ethereum, and then it went to Polygon, and now it's Solana. That's the one that I support currently. I like the moves they're making in the industry. I like the attention they're getting from the government and the legislation they recently passed. They recently issued a new stock. I believe it's called Strike. Don't quote me on that. I think it's I'm pretty sure the stock is called Strike, and it's based upon Solana holdings and staking dividends that you get paid out for staking. I don't know if you know what staking is, but um, yeah, there's all types of good projects out there, though. I mean, one need only look. There's lots of great projects. There's also lots of total snake oil and dog shit out there. So you
Oh
should
yeah.
definitely make sure before you put any money into anything or before you support anything.
Yeah, definitely. I've had friends and family come and be like, "What cryptocurrency should I buy? I heard about this one that's supposed to go to $1 million in a month." And I tell them, I'm
Yeah.
like, just go to, Coin Market Cap or CoinGecko and just the top 10. Just stay within the top 10
Yeah,
and
that's
you
probably
should
good
be
advice.
fine. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, once you kind of get more knowledge and know more, you can dink around with other projects. But if you just want a safe investment, the top 10.
my
Yeah.
my wife and I have been very blessed with our investments, and I tend to be a little more risky these days with some things. But I don't put if every single one of my really risky investments got wiped out, it would not affect our life at all.
Mhm.
Um, the majority of where we're at is in safe bets. I would
Mhm.
say that's probably the where I focus the majority of my attention. But yeah, like I look at it as like buying a lotto ticket. If you want to buy Dogecoin, go buy Dogecoin. It could
Yeah.
be a lotto ticket, like somebody could tweet about it tomorrow and it could go to $1 bajillion. But I would not put your rent in
No.
Dogecoin.
No. Yeah, yeah, definitely invest what you're willing to lose in stuff like Dogecoin or other meme
that is
coins.
always the that is always the approach. Even now, that's the approach that we take with our investments. Is like even the safe ones. Like let's say you're buying gold, like just
Mhm.
straight up physical gold. It's very
Yeah.
very safe, right? I still will not put money that I need into gold because what's the old saying? Time in the market beats timing the market.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know if you ever heard that. So
Mhm.
if you buy an investment and you have to sell it 2 weeks later or 2 months later or even 6 months later, you probably will take a bath on it, especially if it's
Oh
a
yeah.
safe one. Because inevitably, if you go buy an ounce of gold, it's going to go down. Like that's
Uh-huh.
just how the universe works. At least for me, it is. But if you hold on to it, for a couple of years, you'd be surprised how well it grows.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So also just to switch gears, tell me about SquidSec and your podcast and your blog and stuff.
Yeah. So when I became a professional in IT, we'll just say IT in general, software engineering, computers, whatever, cybersecurity, um, I was always a big believer in showing your work and not just writing words on a resume. That's
Mhm.
always been my go-to. So when I started engineering, the very first thing I did was I built my own website, my own blog, from the ground up, database schema, everything, all the way up to the UI. I spent a few years maintaining it, and I built an admin section for it, and all types of stuff. And then I would actually post blog entries to it.
Mm.
Um, and then as time went on, I realized how freaking hard it is to keep up with bugs on something you built from the ground up. So
Yeah.
I killed it, and I switched over to WordPress, and I started building that out, and I ran a website, .NET Russell, for a very long time, where I once again posted about programming and tech topics. And um, as time went on, I focused a lot more on security in my free time, doing a lot of like boot to roots and CTFs, and going to DEF
Hmm.
CON, and
Hmm.
giving my own talks, writing. I wrote, been published in 2600 a couple times now.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Which
I
which
believe in
uh which issue?
20, God, I think it was spring 2016, spring 2017, something like that. I did,
Ah, I've got a whole stack of them
there you
right
go.
here. Oh wait. Oh,
So
that's
do you have,
Constitution.
oh, hey, that one right there. The very first one you have holding up there
No
with the
wait.
middle
This
finger.
one?
Yeah. Yeah. You'll see my name in that
Uh, where does it list the authors, or is it just in
right in
the
the beginning.
right in the
And I
beginning?
believe I was one of the first articles in there too. So you'll see, I think that article was, Aloha Mora. I built a application that uh, took the voter database and married it with data that I was scraping from Facebook. Do you see it? Do you see me in
Yeah.
there? I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah. Right
yeah.
on. Oh, that's cool.
Is
I
that
had
the
no
voter
idea.
database one?
Yeah, the voter database one. Yeah,
Yeah,
converting the voter database in Facebook into a Google for criminals.
yeah, yeah. Building Google for criminal enterprises. That's what it was. Now I remember. So that actually, I wrote that article before. Do you remember Cambridge Analytica? That whole blow up.
No, no, that doesn't sound
So
familiar.
Cambridge Analytica was scraping data from Facebook, and then using it to target. I'm pretty sure they were using it to like create ads or targeted ads to like push a political agenda or something. I forget exactly what it was, but it was something along those lines. My article about marrying the voter database uh, with Facebook data that I was scraping came out like a year before that. So I feel like I was on the edge. I was on the bleeding edge there, but yeah, I used this tool to show. I actually presented it at DEF CON. That was the first year that the Recon Village
Hmm.
was around, and I presented it at the Recon Village. It is available on the Recon Village's website if anybody's interested. It's also on YouTube.
Hmm.
Um, and I believe I published it under Building Google for Criminal Enterprises. That was the Recon Village talk. But yeah, I built this tool, and it allowed you to say things like, give me all the employees for the Perry nuclear power plant. And it would like anybody that worked for the Perry nuclear power plant, uh, and Facebook at the time made everything public by default back then.
Hmm.
So anybody that worked for the Perry nuclear power plant and listed it on their Facebook, it would pull their profiles in, and then it would search the Ohio voter registration database and marry it with their home address and political affiliation and full legal name. And then it also had integration with the I call it the people. It's the PIPL
Uh-huh.
API.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've used that before,
Yeah, I
but I
used to
married it.
use it before it went behind a paywall.
Yeah, that was when
Yeah.
I was using it too. Yeah. So they and I actually bring it up in the Recon Village talk if anybody's interested in that. It's pretty funny. They had really great data as far as like phone numbers and home addresses and relatives. So I took these different sources and I married them all together into this one tool, and it really made targeted phishing really, it made it nice.
Yeah.
We'll just say that, because yeah, you could really like if you were a state actor and you wanted to target the Perry nuclear power plant or the Cleveland Police Department or some national security site or whatever, all you had to do was type in that topic. It would find the people on Facebook that had it listed as their place of employment, which everybody did that at the time. And it would marry it and like print out these full profiles for you of targets. So yeah, I did that one. And then a couple years ago, I forget which DEF CON that was, 30, 31. So I also had another article published in 2600. That one is called Geo-Distributed Bug Bounty Hunting, I
Hmm.
believe. Uh, and what that one does is, or what that article was about is a lot of people when they bug hunt, when they're doing bug bounty research, they will either do it out of their house, which is really stupid, or they'll do it off of VPN. The reason I say it's stupid doing it out of your house, by the way, is because inevitably they will run some tool, and that tool will get caught by Akamai, and then Akamai will ban you from 90% of the internet for a day or two. Ask me how I know, right? So yeah, it occurred to me that big companies, when they set up their infrastructure, if you're in Australia and you type in google.com, it's not going to go to the servers here in the US. You'll get some geo server, some server that's geolocated near you, right?
Yeah.
Which is cool because then you can debug that server. But if you're in the US and you're trying to find bug bounty things, you don't want just one server, you want all the servers, right? So, because there might be some server in Europe or Ethiopia or somewhere that, somebody's left some service running on with default credentials or whatever. And the companies that, these big companies, they obviously care about those things because they don't want somebody to get default creds on a server. There might be some SSH service running or some telnet service, something. So what I did was I built this tool that what you would do is you would deploy your own nodes in different regions of the world through something like DigitalOcean or Azure or whatever. You deploy your nodes though, and each node would connect back to the master node, and the master node would let you run commands, and you could run. Let's say, for example, you just ran curl against Google.com. It would send the curl request out to each of your nodes, and each of the nodes would run that request. And then if there were different servers responding, they would all return their data into one spot where you could read the response of every node, and you could see if there were other servers responding. And then you could go out and do Nmap request, Nmap scans and all different types of stuff. It was a fun tool, but I presented that one at DEF CON as well at the Recon Village. Also very
that's cool.
Fun talk. Yeah.
That's super cool. And what issue of 2600 is that article in?
Oh, that one's more recent.
Okay.
It was a winter issue, I think. I have to get back to you. I think it has a tan cover. I forget.
Okay. Oh, well, I haven't.
I'm sure you have it. Yeah.
Well, I haven't had a subscription to 2600 since like 2018. So.
Oh, okay. Well, you definitely don't have it.
These are all
then.
like from 2016 and 2017 right here.
I just thought it was so funny that literally the first one you pulled up was the one I was published. Yeah. I'm in another.
That's cool.
I'm in another one, and I do have. So for the geo-distributed bug bounty one, I did that one more as like a academic paper for 2600. So there's a lot of theory in it. It doesn't talk about the tool that I wrote. It speculates that a tool could be written based on how GeoDNS works and why it's important to scan those things. So the article is really good. But then after the article, if anybody reads it, I would go check out the DEF CON talk, because then you actually get to see the tool that I wrote based on that paper. And I believe both of them are called geo-distributed bug bounty hunting, something along those lines, or GeoDNS bug bounty hunting.
Okay. Cool. Well, we've run up on time, but thanks so much for joining me here today. Where can people find you?
You can find me on X. I go under the handle .NET_Russell, Mr. the Plague. I don't post anything good on there. I just usually talk smack. So if you want to come and talk smack, or maybe an occasion I'll post a bug bounty hunting hint on there, or something that I see from penetration testing, or that researchers are posting that's driving me crazy. I'll post it on there. And I also post articles on my blog, SquidSec. That's squidhacker.com. I post articles on there, and I've got a ton of really great cheat sheets on there for offensive security. So if you want to learn how to live off the land in Windows or Linux, or if you want to learn how to use AWS command line, Git, all types of stuff, I've got cheat sheets on there. So go check it out.
Okay, cool. Oh,
and check out the SquidSec podcast.
Yeah, do it. Oh, and one last quick question.
Sure.
Mac OS, Windows, or Linux?
The best tool for the job. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
I always, a lot of engineers have these arguments about what tools are best, and I think as time has gone on, I have conceded that every tool has its place except for Mac. Screw Mac.
Yeah, screw Mac.
But-
Okay, we'll end it there. Thank you for listening. You can find this podcast on YouTube and Spotify for now, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you so much.